All in all, they wasted so much time getting to where they were going, which I found irritating. So irritating, in fact, that I thought about killing them at multiple points during the observation. I've gotten way too used to search and destroy. I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for showing restraint as I infiltrated the hole in the ground hidden by some shrubbery. The further I went in, the less able I was to restrain my laughter. I don't have to hold back anymore, do I? In an instant, I let out my pent-up rage along with my mounting hunger for crystals. Give me all your crystals. Shugyagya! Gyuha! This hole in the ground was a great idea. Magic coursed through me after my meal, soothing the sensations which felt like thirst and hunger. I dusted myself off, concealed my presence, and resumed my stealthy hunt for more goblins. I had to have killed around 30 of them after an hour, but they hadn't sent any of their troops after me yet. Had they not noticed? Well, this is a big hallway. I followed it until I turned a corner and entered a room the size of a gymnasium that was filled with goblins as far as the eye could see. There must have been around 50 of them. They were a considerable threat at that amount, even if all of them were weak individually. I figured they could easily mob a medium-sized monster to death. As I was scanning the room, one of the goblins caught my eye. Its face was covered with scars, and its body was twice as large as the rest of the greenskins. It looked like an old war veteran. It wore armor, which may have belonged to an adventurer once, and its giant sword was stuck in the ground next to it. Yes, jackpot! Name, Goblin King Race, Demon V on 21 HP, 97, Magic, 26, Strength, 57, Agility, 26, Skills, Intimidate, 2 Sword Arts, 2 Sword Mastery, 4 Command, 4 Morale Boost, 3 Shield Mastery, 2 Provoke when throwing. Weapons 1 Vigor, 1 Spirit Manipulation, the Goblin King himself. The other goblin's stats were nothing compared to his. I guess they found out about my intrusion and went to protect their king. I trembled with excitement as I looked at his stats. It was the sort of euphoria you got when you were about to be served a high-class dinner. Except this was also an all-out buffet to boot. There was a veritable assortment of goblins, soldiers, archers, knights, mages, warriors, monks, medics, and shamans. Let's do this! I focused my energy, careful to hold nothing back since my will commanded the intensity of my telekinesis. I gathered up all the mana I could put into telekinesis to accelerate toward the mob at blinding speeds. I called this one the telekinesis catapult. You're going down first, Your Majesty. I unleashed my charge and launched toward the Goblin King in an instant. The silence of my telekinesis gave him no chance to react. Despite being a sharp object, the impact of my blade was closer to that of a cannonball, and I ended up exploding his head before getting stuck in the cave wall. I was quite impressed with myself. A few moments later, the beheaded body of the Goblin King slumped forward and fell to the ground with a thud. Blood gushed out of his neck and stained the ground. Silence fell upon the cave as the goblins realized what had just happened to their king. Then they erupted, in anguish and rage, and it felt like their voices shook the room itself. Gyo! Grah! Gru! There were a whole slew of reactions. There were those who panicked and ran around the room, those who ran up to the king's corpse, those who stood in place, roaring as they stood. Now the Goblin King's aide, who had been standing next to the king before he died, faced the other goblins and barked orders at them. 5 of them ran out of the room to check if anyone had thrown the sword which killed their leader, seeing as they thought it impossible for a sword to throw itself. The goblins' gazes were fixed on the hallway, anxious to find their mysterious assassin. Except there's no one for you to find, you fools. I put on a show of falling to the ground due to a breeze, but I turned and launched myself at the aide instead. He looked like he was the brains of the operation, in my opinion. Now give me your magic! As useful as the Goblin King's physical stats may have been, the Goblin Mages were my main target from the start. I had been itching to get my blade on their spells since the first time I used Identify on them. Name, Goblin Mage. Race Demon, level 9, HP 27, Magic 36. Strength, 14, Agility 20. Skills, Mineralogy 1, Command 1, Staff Mastery 2, Battle Staff 1, Fire Magic 3, Fire Magic Up, Small, Mana Manipulation, wahahaha. Now I can use magic too. It was every nerd's dream to use magic in an alternate universe, after all. And seeing that I was a nerd myself, my excitement was a foregone conclusion. But before that, I'll have to clean the rest of you up. It was a one-sided fight from there. The goblins were in a state of fearful panic throughout, most likely because they were no longer under the effects of the Goblin King's morale boost. The Goblin Mage wasn't around to give them orders anymore either, so they no longer had anyone to quell their hysteria. Having lost their leaders, the formidable fighting force that was the Goblin Troop was reduced to little more than a terrified mob. The stronger goblins fought back, but their uncoordinated attacks were no match for me. Meanwhile, the weaker goblins couldn't land any direct hits on me either, and I came out unscathed. In fact, the goblins got in each other's way more than they got in mine. And this would be the last archer. I prioritized taking out my long-range attackers. With them taken care of, I flew close to the ceiling where the rest of the troop could do nothing but stare. I looked down on them like the pile of EXP that they were. I swooped down and circled round the mob, cutting goblins down as I went. I killed the ones who were trying to escape first, and, although a significant amount of them got away, I managed to take down 30 of them during my assault. Boy, did I level up after that. My skill levels for sword mastery and club mastery went up with nearly every crystal I absorbed. I supposed my skills leveled up when I absorbed a crystal which had the same skill. Alternatively, I had to absorb a certain number of crystals with the same skill to level it up. In any case, the fact that I was able to level up made me quite happy.
Ha 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 ha, now I have all the experience!
After slaughtering the stragglers and absorbing their crystals, I left the goblin nest with something akin to a full stomach. Now where's my pedestal again? Night had fallen by the time I had demolished the goblin nest, and although I was flying around in high spirits, darkness had enveloped the land and I lost my sense of direction. The moon's over there, which means not much really. The moons move differently in this world, so I could scarcely rely on them for direction. The moonlight may have brightened up the landscape, but I still couldn't see as well compared to daytime. I was completely lost. I guess I should give up on going home tonight. The pedestal had become something of a home to me, so I wanted to go home at least once every day where possible. Resting within the pedestal made me feel at ease, if nothing else. Returning under the cover of night seemed impossible, however. So I figured I may as well spend the rest of the night hunting since I no longer had any need of sleep. I hesitated for some time since the idea of nocturnal exploration scared me, but it wasn't as if I had any other choice. I headed out, flying at a lower altitude this time. The less distance I had to fall to the ground in case of any surprise attacks, the better. I had seen some large flying monsters earlier, like a bat the size of a cow and a winged anaconda, so I had to play it safe. I used not only my eyes but all my senses, if you could call them that, on my hunt. I had half expected the monsters to be stronger at night, but it was quite the opposite. They might have been weaker since they had to live under the cover of darkness. It took some time to find my quarry, but none of them put up much of a fight. Nice! Echolocation and awareness. I'm getting so many great utility skills. The nocturnal monsters were loaded with exploration and detection skills. One of the most helpful skills was echolocation, which I got from a giant bat. It allowed the user to use mana and sound to locate creatures and objects within a 30-meter radius. Nocturnal exploration became a walk in the park with it. Time to rake in those crystals and rank up. I proceeded to hunt down monsters I hadn't seen during the daytime, and was filled with so much ecstasy that I couldn't see 2 feet ahead of me. All I could think about was going after my prey. Looking back, I may have let the thrill of the hunt get to my head. Grrrr! Which was why I was caught off guard by a sudden roar that sounded like it came from right above me. I looked up at the source of the noise and saw a huge black shape the size of a Cessna plane.
What? How did echolocation not detect that thing?
I had scanned the area with my skill a few moments ago, and that huge shadow didn't show up in the results. It roared again, whizzing by me at what felt like supersonic speeds. It grazed a part of my blade, and a high-pitched metallic clang rang through the air. The creature's lunge was so powerful that I flung back about 10 meters in a tailspin. That wasn't all. The graze had decreased my durability by 30 when I checked my status screen.
You'd resort to an ambush, you coward.
Now, you might be thinking, but you ambush monsters all the time, and you'd be right. But it was okay if I did it, because I was a sword. Why does that make it okay, you ask? Well, because being on the receiving end of an ambush also pissed me off. I tried stabilizing myself as I spun in the air from the ambush. I needed to see what I was up against, but I couldn't even see it. It was too fast to see with the naked eye, and I suddenly understood why echolocation didn't work on it. I only used echolocation once every few minutes to check my surroundings, but a creature with that kind of speed would only take an instant to get to me. It was well outside the effective range of 30 meters, considering the thing was already a tiny dot in the distance in the 5 seconds after it had grazed me. I figured it probably took less than 3 seconds for it to find, then carry out the initial strike against me. The creature roared again. Damn, it's coming in hot. I cast Identify on it, barely evading its assault. Name: Lesser Wyvern. Race: Monster Lesser Dragon, LV21. 23, Magic 95. Strength: 122. Agility: 142. Skills: Intimidate 2, Stealth 2, Fire Resistance 3. Air Manipulation 3, Poison Resistance 3. Hardened Scales, Enhanced Olfaction, Enhanced Absorption, Enhanced Sight. It was strong, The wyvern may have been a lesser dragon, but it was the strongest monster I had come to face yet. It had more skills too. I managed to avoid a direct hit this time, but the wind pressure it generated was enough to knock me off course. It was then I realized that I had taken this world lightly. I had yet to face any hard opposition, but throwing me a dragon for my first real fight was overdoing it, don't you think? Damn it. My formidable foe circled around, moving even faster this time. This seemed to be a hopeless boss fight, but giving up wasn't an option on the off chance I got a game over screen instead of progressing my story. I resolved that if it came down to it, I would hover close to the ground to escape the dragon's missile-like assaults. That might be enough to do it. Maybe. For now, I was going to try and fight it since it was doubtful whether I'd be able to run away from it in the first place. It was probably going to pursue me as long as I stayed in its territory, so I may as well find a way to create an opening and fight back. Its supersonic speed seemed like a double-edged sword I could use to my advantage, so I decided to start there. My own survival took precedence, of course. I waited for the lesser wyvern to make its next attack. The creature's speed worked against it, making it difficult to alter its own flight course. Thankfully, I didn't need to worry about the certainty of the dragon's next assault.